Welcome to a brand new session of Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass. I open this episode with a very powerful thought, viewers, a thought that must have run across your mind several times. What ascertains our success? The size of your will determines your success. We're all capable if we have the stick to intuitiveness. Make your willpower a glowing ember, something which fuels you with an intense fire to achieve your goals, big or small. I have one such guest with me today on this show who has redefined success with his absolute hard work and willpower to always give his best in every situation. Not 1,000, 2,000, no dear, 18,000 surgeries, cardiothoracic and vascular surgeries to date. Be it in India, being the first beating heart bypass, he's done it successfully. Described as a restless innovator by his colleagues, he is a great influencer to the Indian cardiac department today. Skilled enough to restart your heart anytime, a pioneer and a leader par excellence. Let's welcome Dr. Vivek Jawali. Thank you very much for coming into our studio, because the viewers are going to learn not only about the heart but the art of living as well. And it is my real privilege to have the viewers taste the other side of Dr. Jawali, the heart and soul of Dr. Jawali.
I'm honored to be here.
So, from Bashi to Bangalore, how has your journey been?
Let me take it out. My background is little unusual. You must understand, I come from Gulbarga, Alan. This was once upon a time not Karnataka, not Maharashtra, Nizam state. We had problems. My mother tongue is Kannada, but studying Kannada at that time of a very backward Alan was not an option, hardly. Urdu was the major option, which nobody wanted to study. If you remember Virendra Patil, BA, MA, LLB he did in Urdu. But my father, my Doddappa, my Chikkappa, me, we all ended up studying in Marathi, because Marathi was another healthy option across the border, Telangana, Marathwada, Hyderabad, Karnataka area. Having started in Marathi medium, then there was no escape. I had to go in Marathi. So we had lands across in Maharashtra, Solapur district, a small town called Barshi. And outside Barshi, not in the town, we had a large farm, and I grew up there, because after 3 standards in Aland, which was extremely backward, I shifted there. And then there was a small town school there, Marathi medium, but they were good teachers, and I grew up there. Where I grew up, my life was in a farm. You've seen that movie Jungle Book,
Yes.
Mowgli?
Yes.
I will not believe I was exactly that child. I had a lot of animals, wild, and my own pet animals. There were those days wolves and foxes and animals like that, birds. My father was a farmer, and he was very busy in farming. My mother was very busy assisting him. We were 4 of us, and they had very little time to attend, but my mother ran everything iron-handedly. I grew up as a farm hand. My father used me as a farm hand. After the school, we come back and we would have rotation like an intern. Some months in the poultry, some months in cow shed, some months in the garden, some months in the agricultural field. Few things happened. A, when you grow like that, you grow very adaptable, agile, and very healthy. I ate right things, I breathed right things, I drank right things. But at the same time, there was some kind of a discipline. We were a very well-knit, bounded family. My mother, I told you, ran it very well. And by default, few things happened. In my school, now I look back, I realize I had learning difficulties, a bit dyslexic. So I never really could understand anything, maths and science, and I was good in languages, and I fell in love with painting. And I had a very good painting teacher in the school who took me under his umbrella, protected me from other teachers. They pardoned my lack of attendance in their class because whole day I spent in the painting room. And I don't know how I got into reading. The India of those days and Maharashtra of those times, Marathi literature was very rich. And most of the English classics were translated in Marathi. And I just voraciously read whatever came in front of me, Somerset Maugham and this and that. The First World War, Second World War, there is a big epic called The Rise and Fall of Third Reich.
Yes.
Somebody called Mahadev Shastri in Marathi had written it as Nazi Bhasmasuraचा Udayasta. And I just devoured that as a school kid. But when I came to college, I realized that I had enough information. So these things made a lot of difference to me. And my father was a bit of an out-of-the-box thinker. Nobody thought that in my area they could grow grapes. Now it's a grape district, but my father started grapes. He had a lot of difficulties. Nobody would think that they could start sugar canes there. Now we have 2 sugar factories there, but he was the first to start sugar canes. So that also kind of impressed me, and I just unconsciously developed that thinking that always challenging the dogmas, and you can do that. My father was a taskmaster and he didn't like cowardice. So I remember one day while coming back from school, some bully in the town, the illiterate kids, they beat me up and they took my school bag. I came back running to my father with bruises, thinking that my father will come and beat that kid up. And my father didn't allow me to get inside the house, and he told my mom that don't feed him. He has to go back, get his school bag back, otherwise he cannot. So I was very insulted, and it was very big trauma, and it was far away, 2 kilometers again, wherever that child was. So I went there, and those guys again came and jeered at me, and I was so psychotic and mad at that time because of anger that I saw some stones there and I picked up the stones and I hit that guy. That guy got badly injured, he got scared, he dropped the bag and he ran away. I took the bag, came back home. My father was very happy, and then there was a PT teacher who was a war veteran in my school. He used to run these odd classes of street fighting. For example, for 1 week there will be one class that somebody catches your collar and what do you do to him?
So self-defense.
Whole week. Then the next week you catch somebody's collar and how he cannot do that to you. So at the couple of years, those classes, and my father was very satisfied with me. So these things and the reading did couple of things. A, it made me a very agile kid that nobody could touch me and nobody could grab me or hold me. Number 2, it made me very adaptable and flexible.
Good.
And because that background that I came back from, I was very humble. I had no airs. And the third thing was this reading never imprisoned me there, and it made me a citizen of the world. And I could completely imagine how the roads in London or Montreal or Vienna and the roadside cafes would be as a child. And so it kind of emancipated me. It was a window and a highway to the world. And when I came out of that secluse to Gulbarga to study college, Gulbarga also was a village, but it was a town, and it was Kannada and Urdu, and I was a Ghati Marathi, and I had never heard a single not even a thank you in English, and it was another journey. But this childhood, when I look back, I'm very thankful, grateful that I grew up like that. My father would send me early morning with the bullock cart and the servants to oversee the auctions of the produce that we made in the farm. And those momins and bagwans, they taught me the art of negotiation. But it was fantastic. I'm telling you, when I look back, I think I was quite a wholesome product that was brought in the city of Gulbarga.
Which is good, because I think what your father, if I can summarize, right from your childhood, one, he taught you discipline. But the other thing that I've seen is the art of innovation. And the fact that he was able to grow grapes, so the genes have been there in you.
Let me add one more thing.
Innovation.
Let me add one more thing. The mom and my grandmom, most of the time the stories they told me were all history, Shivaji and stuff like that.
So
and there were
bravery.
morals. And then there was the RSS Shakha, in which we were all compelled to go, because My father had given them some small piece of place to run the shakha. Two things I'll tell you to the credit to those guys. Throughout those days, nobody ever put in my ears any Muslim hatred. People misunderstand RSS like that. No, it was truly Seva Seva, and though they and my mother and my grandmother with those stories stuffed us with nationalism. Bharat Mata first, then your town, then your language, then your family, then everything. And I think even that was a very important impression for us, me and my siblings. And I think it should be done to every kid. Mission first.
Yes, I think it's important, but the problem here is that people get swayed by a lot of these political gains for self-grandizement, and that should not be there, and they lose the plot in the whole bargain. But coming back to your point, your father has really been a role model for you, while your mother has given you that kind of discipline. So even being a farmer, so obviously he may not have had that much of education in those days, he was able to think of rotation of crops,
and also
bringing in
family
so
values.
much, and the family values. See, he also taught you self-defense. He did not actually tell you to go and say, oh, why did that fellow do, I'll go and sort it out, etc.
There was no lad pyar.
And he also allowed you to be with the foxes and the wolves, which was excellent.
All that gives you a kind of courage which is unconscious. Unconscious courage is not bravery, what you can call. Bravery is not lack of fear. Bravery despite of that fear.
Absolutely.
And courage, I think, is a very important basic quality because it will ensure other qualities in life.
And also, you are not, afraid to experiment. Because when you are taking calculated risks, knowing fully well that even if you are going on a landmine, you know how much of weight you can put on that landmine so that it doesn't burst. So it's important for you to also say that yes, you must take risks, but at the end of it, if you don't taste, never ventured, never won, and that is something
taking risk in medicine is for traveling, taking the medicine that you are practicing on more patient-friendly roads and changes that are applicable to masses, not doing something which is for getting a name or applicable only to a small group of people. Whatever we did, which we set a trend or we pioneered, 1991 we started beating heart bypass surgery, off-pump bypass surgery, first time in India. For 5-6 years we were laughing stock. But today if you look at India, we are world leaders in off-pump bypass surgery, and 75% of the bypass surgeries in this country are off-pump. We started a movement. Secondly, in 1995, September, we did India's first minimally invasive beating heart bypass surgery. Again, it was something unheard of, which we had picked up a clue from Latin America. And when you are doing something on the surface of the heart and you stop the heart, let the blood run on plastics and getting beaten, it doesn't make sense. So we started in a very humble way, but then today it's a movement. Minimally invasive surgery through small incisions. And sometime in 1997 in Paris, few of us met. We started a new organization called ISMICS, International Society of Minimally Invasive Cardiac Surgeons. Today it's a banyan tree, more than 5,000 members across the world. Every year when the conference happens, it's a mela. And in India also now we have formed our own minimally invasive cardiac surgeons association separate from our mainstream association. So what started as a fancy by some young guy in a 100-bedded hospital in Bangalore, but today it's a movement. The awake surgery that we started in 1999, epidural analgesia, no endotracheal tube, no anesthesia, patient wide awake, and you may even put the patient on heart-lung machine, stop the heart, no heart, the patient awake. But we did about couple of thousand cases like that. But today, for those specific patients, like somebody has got myasthenia gravis, you give him a paralysis, it takes a long time on the ventilator. Or patient who has got a very poor lung, FEV1 is less than 125, you just can't dare operate him. But if you give him a high thoracic epidural, you maximal bronchodilation, complete dry bronchus, no bronchoria, and no endotracheal tube, not traumatizing, not entering any bacteria over there. It's a very different ball game. So you can operate a lot of these inoperable cases. Today we get references from physicians from England and stuff like that. So that was again a very different genre, but we made it into a movement and it became an association of World Association of Surgeons who are interested in awake cardiac surgery. And now look at neurosurgery. It had a fallout effect on neurosurgery. Today, a lot of neurosurgeons are doing brain tumors on awake patients, but we started it all in India. And so on and so forth. So thinking out of box, I'll tell you another story with a lesson. I met the governor of Basra city. Basra is a big city in the south of Iraq, struggling for autonomy. This city has a teaching hospital called Al Sadra Teaching Hospital. There are a couple of cardiac surgeons extremely poorly trained, can't do anything, and they were sending patients to us at a high cost. Patients were coming for all kind of cardiac surgeries and they were defaulting on their bills. They were not able to pay the bill. I told him an idea that why can't you do another novel thing, that I will come there to Basra and I will start operating in the teaching hospital. I will set up things, local services, and I'll put a rota of my team. And then we will start operating there. A lot of good things will happen. A, my team will earn money and their financial growth will be better. My hospital will be happy because still difficult cases which I don't want to operate there will keep coming here. C, your governor and all the senior politicians can take a lot of political mileage by the Iraqi patients from Basra not going outside Basra and you saving tremendously. So he was very excited. And then I made them, we signed an MOU with Fortis Hospital and the Basra Governorate, and per case this much anta, they will pay for the airfare. I set up a vegetarian Indian kitchen there and we created a guest house there where my people could go. Their security situations were dangerous. So from the time we land, there will be a couple of machine gun toting guys who would protect, and they did a good job of that. To cut the story short, in the beginning we had a teething problem because the local gentry of technicians, nurses, etc. locally, they were not used to be working hard. Nobody wanted to stay there till 8 o'clock in the evening. And every time the prayer time came, they disappeared and they would not come back fast, 5 times a day. So we had problems. The patients were nice. Every time we did an operation successful, they would bring a lot of gifts, sometimes even dollars, and we would direct all that to the ICU staff and the technicians and everybody. And they started understanding that every operation extra happened and they worked for it. They got a lot of extra things apart from their pay. And then that resistance melted. I went there 3 times. I set up everything well. Everything got lubricated and we put in a rota. What happened? At the end of 1 year, we had done 472 open hearts off-site, Basra, Iraq, war-torn country. That kind of numbers are not known in the Gulf. We started getting covered all over the Gulf media. My photos were there everywhere. The governor was very excited. They got a huge political mileage. The Baghdad was jealous of Basra. And they were there all over the media. The governor called and told me that 500th operation when we do, we want to do a celebration, come here. I said, okay. And at that time for the celebration, I went to Basra. When I got down in the airport, I see the male and female, the separation was very strict, but I saw that most of the females, they would recognize me, Dr. Hindi, and they would call my hand, and you give the hand and they do that. I felt very, it was a very different kind of feeling, that when I was riding to go to the city, I saw in the center of the roads on the median, there were huge hoardings of me and the governor, the hospital, and my photos everywhere. I realized that whatever we had done, but in our own small way, we had put a shine on Indian flag. And Dr. Hindi were very respected there. Now, what's the model? Look what happened. They got a political mileage. Their patients stopped suffering, coming to India and getting operated and going back at a lot of personal cost in addition. And their staff there started learning more and more that the simple operations, they stopped needing me and my team. And then my team, the paraclinicals, their financial growth per annum jumped by 40%. My hospital was happy, more patients were coming because our brand started shining. Patients were coming from all parts of Iraq. Now a lot of other hospitals understood that. This was quite some time back. They understood that and it became a trend. Now look at Africa, such a big land, very poor facility anywhere. Look at the Middle East, except the couple of rich countries, the entire poor Middle East, which is vast, nothing is there. That means to do this off-site surgeries, what a big market. How much money can be brought back to the country. The Leipzig Heart Center in Leipzig every December holds a global cardiothoracic update meet. I was surprised they called me and asked me to give a podium plenary 12 minutes talk on this whole off-site surgery concept to make sure that the cardiac surgery flourishes in the eastern part of the hemisphere. Then my guys sit down and they wrote a paper for Harvard Business Review. So you think out of box, and which is good for everybody, and a new road which is good for masses. I think the ideas will become banyan trees. When you talk doing something out of box is not to satisfy your ego, but A, take the road to more patient-friendly roads, if possible, make it cheaper, and see that it is applicable to masses.
How do you compare the GSA, the Mumbai training to the Karnataka training? Do you find a difference over there?
See, when you talk of my training days, it's that India.
And the greats, you worked with the greats. People would give an arm and a leg to work with such greats. And what was the kind of learning you got, and how did you implement that learning into Karnataka?
Okay, so let me tell you my entire college story. But you must understand, bottom line, today's India is totally different. Today's Bangalore is totally different. Today's Karnataka is totally different. We're talking about those days of 70s and 80s when Bombay was there and we were here. And my core was literary and art, theatre, poetry, painting, stuff like that. And my painting teacher saw that. I applied to JJ School of Arts, which was the MIT of art in India. I got an admission, which was so impossible. But then I was thoroughly brainwashed by everybody. You want to become painter, you want to paint film boards and stuff like that. Then nobody understood that what kind of dimensions visual arts would have in the future. So I just shut up and went to Gulbarga, joined PUC Science. Science was a highway to anything that you can do. You can even go back to law, go back to business management, but do science. Science, I had monsters. Mathematics, such a monster, I just could not make head or tail. And another monster was English, and all this was to be studied in English. But I got by. And it is a very bad certificate to our education system that you have a bit of a proper IQ and memory. You can mug at the end of the year and you can score. And I scored and I got by. But then came the next step, medicine. I didn't want medicine. I wanted to now get off from this PUC to something I liked, and again I was brainwashed. I said, you want a career which is evergreen, Devanand, which will never, there will be hump or dump, go to medicine. And there is a medical college, it's our own town, Gulbarga. So okay, I went to medicine. Medicine, you go.
So you never did anything that you wanted to do. Yeah. You were always pushed into something.
And the first day is where you are taken to the dissection, anatomy dissection hall. The dead bodies, formaldehyde, shriveled, with the stink, and my artist inside me. That was unthinkable. 3 monsters. Anatomy dissection hall, the autopsy room, postmortems, and I would say, to kill your romance, the labor room. So I rebelled, and I didn't want this. And I hardly attended my medical college, and I fell into a company which was controlling the college politics. I had different gangs. They were literary guys with whom I would hang out and do poetry, shairi. They were then this gang of mine, which was the premier gang, which was the politicians. You know, most of them really went far in their life. YSR, who became the CM of Andhra Pradesh, was my gang. He was from my college. His alter ego, who remained the behind curtain CM of Andhra Pradesh, KVP and me were very close. And with these guys, we were all voracious readers, but these guys read everything except medicine, and so was me. So, but again, the bad medical education system. We could mug, we could get marks. I never failed. I got by. Only when I came to the end of the college, I had lack of attendance. I never realized that they're counting my attendance from first year to last year. So I was, those last year subject, I would attend only last year. And then the attendance was bad, but we were the big guys. I was the chronic student leader, and that was a violent mob. So my principal called me and he said, Vivek, I have to detain you for lack of attendance, and you just shut up and let me detain, because there will be no attempt on your name. And if you go for the exam, you will definitely fail. I said, do whatever you want. I don't want to be such a bad boy that you are scared of me. Detain. Now all my colleagues, my classmates, they passed and they became the interns with the apron and then sit around and they're doctors. And that was such an ego crush and such an insult. So I couldn't stay there. There was another friend of mine who is now in Malacca, Malaysia, a Malaysian Tamilian. He also was detained. So I said, you come to my farm. And so he had no money to stay, lodging, boarding. He said, come with me. So we all went and we stayed in my farm and we studied there hard. And there's no way we can fail now, because there's no, he had no money and he could not tolerate to show his face to his parents because he was really emotional about it. And I had my ego, no face to show to my friends. So we studied hard, really hard. The problem default was we both have no clue, we never attended, and we don't know how much studying is enough, how much is less, and how much is too much. So by mistake we studied too much, and then we came back 15 days in advance to the exam, and my friends who had passed and who were very good, then they tutored us for 15 days how to do the bedside presentation, viva voce, orals, bedside manners, and English was good. Eloquence was good, and no problem. And so when we went to the exam, we did very well, and it was so childish. Those questions were so silly and everything was here. So we wrote very good theory, and the teachers who were internal examiners couldn't believe that these guys are so good. So it was written on the wall that these guys have copied, and I don't know that what they think of me. But that time there was a different system, that with the theory papers are in front of the examiners, 3 external, 1 internal. The internal is already poisoned externals, that these guys are all waste. But they are looking at the theory papers and they're so brilliant. And he said, these are not the sentences from the books. This looks like a conglomeration. They said, you ask him questions, you will know what is what. So we did brilliant, and we did very well in exam. And to my surprise, the biggest surprise was I got a first rank. Those days, Karnataka University of Dharwad, KUD, had 4 colleges, Belgaum, Gulbarga, Bellary, and Hubli. These Hubli and Bellary were monstrous, all rank students and fantastic students. So there was no question of a rank student not coming from Bellary or Hubli. And there was this guy from Gulbarga gets a rank, and I had good marks. And the other guy who studied with me got a second rank. So all that created a lot of ripple. Then it went to re-evaluation of ours. In re-evaluation I got 3 more marks. And then from beginning I had done a lot of activities. I was a student leader, I was very good on theatre, I was the opening batsman of the college, I was in a lot of things. So they used to have a scoring of a best all-round outgoing student, and I got that. So college went on like that. My English improved because of the girls, because my class was small, 100 guys, and 22 of them were from Malaysia. Another quite a chunk was from abroad. So they were all convent educated, good English speaking boys and girls. And those days you know how the boys are. So how do I talk to these girls? And so they were my real stimulus, mentor for me to sit down and learn English. And there were no these lingua phones and computers and softwares. So BBC on radio, Voice of America on radio, Webster's Dictionary, and Rajyotsava Cyrus. So my pronunciations might not have changed, but my vocabulary really became massive. And
so it's good nice. At every stage you sort of took every challenge and you succeeded in coming out. So I feel that somewhere along the line you felt that every kind of challenge became a kind of a maqsad in life that you must succeed, and that's how you did it. And you went to the end. You never left it halfway.
Let me answer you. My philosophy was different because all this was unconscious. I never was, of course, I never thought small. Somehow, I always took it unconsciously that I'm big. I don't know, I can't describe why I was that. Maybe the books, maybe my ego that my mother and father might have fed me, I don't know. But I was like a river. I just went. I was just flowing, whether it was through the gorge, through the cliffs. It went, and finally it will one day meet the ocean. So I was like that. I took it, whatever came in front of me, I took it. But as I told you in the beginning, courage, I mean, you just take it, you don't worry, don't think too much. So courage is a basic attribute, quality that will ensure other qualities in life.
Absolutely. But I feel that somewhere along the line, Vivek, I feel that this kind of challenge that you have faced during your college days has somehow been very, very instrument for you to get into this Jaideva, and you have actually turned that institution into a fantastic place
Before
for
I
everybody.
come to that, let us come back to somebody young like me, coming from the Mughlai-like background. Why did I start loving becoming a doctor? You know, I want to tell you a story. I became an intern, rank student. I know it all. But when I went to the hospital as an intern, I realized that I don't know anything. That like I studied once upon a time chemistry, physics and maths. After the summer holiday, it all washed out. All these subjects were washing out. I learned small things from ward boys, ayahs and all that, and sisters. But my first posting was general surgery. And as I entered the wards, within a week, there was one young, good-looking girl from Fartapur, a nearby village, with 60% burns, was admitted. I was in the unit of a guy called Dr. Desai. He was a fantastic surgeon, very good human being. He told me, Vivek, in our kind of setup, 60% burn is a sure shot death. Let us not torture her. Let us not extend her yatanegulu, and let her die peacefully. Don't try to drag. I know the knowledge of burns, but I don't know how to treat a burn patient. But I saw her, my heart went to her, and I said, what is the use of studying, and how can I let her die? I said, no, I will sit by her, I will try my best.